Good morning, everyone. Today's morning meditation, we're still actually in the first chapter of the book of Jonah, but now down toward the end of the chapter. As we read through these verses, I want to pick up at verse 15 and then continue down to the end of the chapter in verse 17. And it begins in verse 15. So they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and offered a sacrifice unto the Lord, and made vows. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. If you happen not to be familiar with the story of Jonah, Jonah was a prophet in Israel. God gave him a command to go to Nineveh, which was the capital city of the Assyrian Empire, which were bitter enemies of Israel. God wanted to send Jonah there to preach to the Assyrians in Nineveh about repentance because judgment was going to come upon them for their wickedness. Jonah, who did not like the Assyrians and wanted to see them destroyed, did not want to bring them a warning. He got on a boat, and instead of heading to Nineveh, he heads far away to Tarshish. And while he's on that sea journey, God sends a storm. The storm envelops the ship. The sailors cry out to find out what the problem is and why they're having this great difficulty. They narrow it down to Jonah being the problem. And Jonah tells them, if you want the sea to be quiet, you have to cast me off the boat. And that's what they do in verse 15. They throw him into the sea. And it says in verse 17, God prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. The interesting words to me is now the Lord had prepared. If we think about God from the very first time we encounter him in the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In other parts of the Bible, we're told that the plan of salvation, or that Jesus Christ would come as the substitutionary sacrifice for the sins of man, was a plan that was founded before the earth was even created. God's whole history, as it's revealed to us, is one of a person, an ultimate being who prepares, who creates, who plans, and who executes. He has a perfect plan and he executes that. And God's plan for Jonah was to carry this message to Nineveh. Jonah was rebelling, and God prepared a great fish to swallow him up. And in the belly of the whale, when we get to that chapter next, maybe tomorrow we'll look at it, we'll see how God convinces Jonah of the error of his ways by being in the belly of that fish for 3 days. But you can imagine that being swallowed up and stuck in the belly of a fish is not a very pleasant place. But that's what God had prepared for Jonah in response to his disobedience. That's not the only things, though, that God prepares. In 1 Corinthians, we're reminded, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. You can't even imagine what God is preparing for those who love him. Jesus, when he was speaking to his disciples in John chapter 14, he told them, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, you believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. For Jonah's disobedience, God prepared a great fish to swallow him up. For those who love God and are following him, God is preparing a place, a mansion in heaven, an eternal abode where we can be with God forever. He's preparing that for us, a place that goes beyond what eye has seen or what ear has heard or what has even entered into the heart of man. God is preparing for those who love him. And my question for you this morning, what I'd like you to meditate upon, is what would you like God to be preparing for you? Your disobedience will get you in the belly of the fish, but your obedience and your love for God gets you a mansion in heaven. I think it becomes a pretty easy choice. How about you? Have a great day, guys. Bye.